My dearest wife, how are you?
Okay.
You've gotten all sorts of good, good compliments about your appearance, about your visage on the internet, social media.
My visage on the internet?
I do love how people are comfortable enough to ask me how and why you're with me.
When was my visage on the internet?
No, it was a couple days ago, I think, but maybe it was Thursday.
Oh, when I had to go to my work thing.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, you
Okay.
gotta wear... God,
What?
I'm so... You women, just believe us when we say you look good.
What did
Like, you have
I
nice
do-
legs, but you don't wear leggy stuff enough. You wear jeans in 100 degree.
I like long pants and long sleeves.
I don't care.
And I
you
wear
are
them almost
the
all the
object
time.
of my attraction, Alice. There are ways I like you dolled up, and I want you to abide from now on.
I'm busy like cleaning the house and cleaning out chicken poop a lot. I don't,
So, a little bit less, though, now. By the way, thank you, Jean. Jean, a listener from
Connecticut.
From Connecticut, who listens to WTIC, drove all the way up here, 3 hours away, to pick up our 5 guinea fowl and bring them home. They're now Jean's. Thank you, Jean. That ride, I assume, was horrific, especially the return trip where she had, a big and...
a big and loud dog.
Loud dog in a constricted space full of nervous guinea fowl. So who knows? But that is good. So now that goes in the less stress stuff for us. So we don't have to worry about those guys because they've been running in the streets and cars have been swerving because we're the Shaddocks and we disrupt neighborhoods in the place. So
Well, no more guinea fowl.
no more guinea fowl.
Only chickens.
I got
now.
4 great chairs as well, Alice, today. It was such an odd thing, too, because... maybe I won't go through it. Anyway, the transaction, the person wasn't there for a long time. I'm like, wow, this person actually blew me off. But these chairs, they're beautiful. And so then I was leaving. I left. And I'm like, okay, I guess I'll have to just go away. And because they're trying to replace chairs. This is not all hoarder stuff, guys. And
Our kids think you're a hoarder.
I know. But they haven't seen the pros.
They have. In
No,
Vermont,
well, yeah,
they have.
They have. Yeah.
They
So
said
anyway,
you're not quite there yet, but you're working on it.
I'm not, Alice. There were things that I am looking for. Canon,
Mm-hmm.
a real Canon.
Yeah.
If you guys know of somebody with a real Canon, I would like one. Even if it's hot, I don't care. I want a Canon. Civil War, Revolutionary War, period. But I'll take any Canon. I was.
What
looking,
about just the guns they have at some war memorials? The big guns.
Oh, like those like water cooled machine guns and stuff.
Mhm.
I'd take those too. Those are awesome. That's what our town has. So I'm looking for spinning wheel. I was wanting one. We now have 2, including one that's 8 feet tall. But the guy threw it in.
It's not 8
he's
feet
like, do you
tall.
want this one too? I was like, it's an antique. Why not? It's so cool.
I'm gonna bury you like an Egyptian pharaoh with all your stuff.
Good. Yes, I want that to be the way. And then I was looking for one of those old Singer sewing machines. Because there's a lot of
That's
those.
gonna be in your grave
yes.
goods also.
And then I mentioned the Canon, and then just kitchen chairs, which we've got 4 of now. Just need 2 more. Those are swapping
Dining
out the
room
old
chairs.
ones. Dining room chairs. Yeah, I'm sorry. And then that's pretty much it. Although I was in negotiations with somebody about a year and a half ago for some old phones. I think it would be awesome to have old phones, like 1920s phones in the family
Like
room.
with the 2 parts.
2 parts
like a
or
little-
close to it. Yeah,
Mhm.
I thought that would be really cool. So that was what I was looking for. So anyway, we got rid of those guinea fowl. So now we
while
just have
Tom
the
was
sound.
out antiquing, I was getting rid of guinea fowl
Right.
and removing a lot of items from our
Mhm.
house and making them go away.
Right, and it's funny because it was a young couple who got me the chairs, and right as I was driving away, they walked out of the woods, and the guy was a really good looking guy, kind of in a Noah Wiley. Do you know Noah Wiley?
No.
He was on ER. Edward Norton,
Mm-hmm.
kind of like an Edward Norton way, that kind of look.
Okay.
And the woman was absolutely gorgeous, and they had been walking in the woods. and they said, "Oh yeah, we're just trying to get rid of this. Is some of my mom's stuff here. We just moved into town," and so they live in Malden, Massachusetts,
Mm-hmm.
and they're a young couple coming out from the woods with a dog. They're a new couple, so they're walking the dog, which is something that
Been
once
there.
and I looked up the house because I was trying to find a landline because they were blowing me off, and the house in Malden now sold for $555,000. That's
Mm-hmm.
where if you guys Malden was not a nice town and is for the most part it is now becoming a beautiful town.
That's where Tom got his picture of the fighting dogs. Was,
That's right. This is from,
on the street in Malden.
Yes,
that's
that
somebody's
house is
great
not worth.
Malden art.
But now, so this is what's happening: is that all these towns that were kind of fringe towns, if they're anywhere near a big city, they're being overtaken.
They're
of course, gentrified. And in this case, it was a young, handsome couple and their dog, and soon that'll be the dog, and it'll be kids, and then they'll start going to Board of Ed meetings, and they'll either be masked or not masked, depending on what kind of people they are. They're Massachusetts, they probably will be. And somewhere along the lines, this couple could look around and say, you know what? Here we are. We've got these 3 kids. We're a really good-looking couple.
Mm-hmm.
The dog is great. We've got this house in a town that is now nice because the town next to it, Melrose, went from being essentially a Stoneham, Massachusetts, went from a B- town to an A+ town. So this is the next one to do it. So this is what's happening, and it's happening more and more. And so at some point, they're going to have to make the decision as to whether or not this couple, are comfortable with the American dream that they've attained. Whether that's something they're comfortable with. Whether they assume that their toil and the money they put in and the time they put in was paid off in a just way. Or if they're living on stolen land, and whether or not they have benefited from systems that have been disadvantageous to minorities. So they're going to have to deal with that in their minds to decide what kind of people they're going to be when they show up for town meeting to talk about overrides for property tax, etc.
Well, and the other piece of this too is that like liberal policies everywhere are actually, actively failing, right?
Yes.
So people are paying big money to be in these like what were once gateway cities, really, like big time immigrant populations, lots of minorities, like sort of like the first town you move to when you make it to America, right?
Mm-hmm.
And these these places were, like you said, kind of fringy. Now they're trendy to live there because it's got proximity to Boston. They're on the commuter rail. You can head into the city. And they're paying all this money and they're living in absolute chaos. I mean, like, okay, like Melrose and Malden aren't really that bad, but for what you pay to live there, I just felt it was like out of step with the reality. Like we would have paid double what we paid for this house when we bought it if we bought this house in Melrose.
Oh, yeah.
And we would have paid all that money and we would have still been going to, yes, a cute downtown, but a downtown where there's like routinely people begging for money and like needles and used condoms on the street. Like,
yes, but at the same time, most of the people are highly college educated who live there.
Right.
And, even so...
And they can't see the line between their political preferences and DAs who don't prosecute anything.
Exactly.
And people deciding we're going to decriminalize every crazy behavior and family and social breakdown and having a bunch of druggies living outside their house.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they can't see the connection between those things. And, like, I just don't understand why.
And that's the point, Alice. I think the point is that at some point they're going to have to decide whether or not they feel guilty,
right,
about having all these things that they've accrued, and whether or not they do. And so most of the beautiful towns in the Northeast have decided, yes, we are guilty. And so the Board of Ed meetings has to do with taking away the name sachems or taking away warriors or chieftains. It doesn't matter. We feel guilty, so we need to take something from us. Of course, it makes no real sense to do that. All you're doing is erasing Indian stuff, but that's fine. It's been the consensus is among progressives that we have to self-flagellate a little bit
Mm-hmm.
here because we're really awesome and we're not actually going to spend our time helping people in the inner city. So we're going to do performance art here out in the leafy suburbs where there are no actual black people to make ourselves feel good. And we're going to have Facebook. But by the way, your Facebook friend, the crazy person in Merrimack,
Oh.
booted me from a conversation. I was removed from a conversation.
Oh, wow.
That's another.
You
situation.
commented on her stuff?
Yes, I agreed
stay
with the
away
guy,
from that.
So anyway, so they decided that we're all going to feel guilty about something, and so they only go with the idea that the norm is bad.
Mhm.
Everything that's bad, normal is bad. And what we must do is do this performance that shows just how affirming of everybody we are. So if some dude for this month
Mhm.
twerks in front of some kid, it is really, really affirming. And it shows a real incredible compassion for a parent to say, you know what? Yeah, we're going to affirm that makes him happy, and that's normal. And so that's what we're seeing more and more of.
Mhm.
All these things, because the idea is that everything in this country is built on something malevolent. It's all the origins of this country are bad. So new stuff that seems weird, no. We're not going to do to the trans ideologist people and the twerkers, etc. We're not going to do to them what we did to the Indians and to the South and to the slaves, etc. etc.
I mean, not that we basically already have, according to those people.
Oh, right. No, absolutely. Certainly.
We've already done that.
Which is why now, since the police killed a man in Minneapolis, now is the time where we have to reevaluate everything. And so we're reevaluating everything. So people go into and for that couple that I saw today,
Mhm.
they're going to feel incredible pressure to subscribe to everything that their neighbors subscribe to. And so that means we're not even starting with lawn signs here, but, showing up at this meeting and saying that and this and that. I mean, they're going to be at some point expected to not only shout their complicity and guilt, but affirm that they want this horrid community to enjoy radical change, whatever it is. And so they're going to be expected to this. And we see this more and more. And it was something that used to be funny, and it's not anymore.
Right.
And for instance, like in West Hartford, Connecticut, they had they were two names of the school mascots were the Chieftains and the Warriors. And 7 years ago, the Board of Education said we can't have the depictions of Indians onto these things. We have to change them. And there was debate, and the people on the right said, no, that's a slippery slope, because you're going to want to change the logos, and then you're going to change names. And they said, no, we just want to get rid of, you can't lampoon somebody, you can't have a picture of somebody in headdress, because that's belittling them, and you don't know, and you're stealing from them. So they got rid of those depictions 7 years ago, and just last week now got rid of the names. And then there'll be something else going.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't see how it's possible that they're letting there be a lacrosse team there. How are you going to deal with that? Lacrosse is an Indian sport. What are we doing here? But I'm sure. I mean, the idea is to never stop. You can never stop.
Yeah, you always have to go on to the next thing. And the problem is, like, some of the stuff is just silly stuff, like the names, even though obviously that has a lot of emotional and nostalgia value for people, especially people that played on those sports teams and want their kids to grow up and play on those sports teams and everything else. So it's just, that stuff is just like taking a little bit from you, just, to make sure you feel the pinch of it. But there's also like real stuff that they do that actually has real world consequences too. Did you see the New York Post story about the Bronx schools today? With the Bronx teacher? This came out this weekend because they're doing restorative justice in the schools, which means they don't punish kids for anything or put them in the school to prison pipeline or anything else. So Here's this story in the New York Post. This is from yesterday. Suspensions in New York City public schools are plummeting as the Department of Education pursues a push to soften school discipline under the banner of restorative justice. In reality, measures like mediation are not happening at all in many schools, and kids have learned that rule breaking carries no consequences, with disastrous results. Here, a veteran teacher at a Bronx high school tells the Post in detail about the ultra-violence that hands-off policies have wrought. So this is to be because George Floyd died, we're now going to be extra super nice to majority minority school districts, the kids there, which means that we're going to let a small number of kids with serious problems terrorize everybody else in the building. I've taught at a small high school in the Bronx for 15 years. We always had problem kids, but recently it's out of control. One incident this year could have been a bloodbath, a gang altercation in the middle of the hallway in the middle of the school day. One kid pulled a box cutter and just started slashing. The only thing that stopped it from being more savage is they were all wearing such baggy clothes and so many layers. The kid ended up cutting everyone's clothes to shreds.
Jesus.
Teachers are constantly getting verbal threats from students when we ask them to follow basic school rules. A few weeks ago, a female colleague asked a student to put his phone away during class, and he told her, "I know where you live. I'm coming after you." The woman was so frightened she had to call a family member to come escort her home. None of these kids were suspended. Our principals' hands are tied. The pressure they're receiving from above is not to suspend students or take any punitive measures at all, meaning there's no accountability for any bad behavior. It's a culture of sweeping things under the rug, and the kids know it. I can say whatever I want, do whatever I want, and there really are no consequences. All we can do is just hope these kids will get transferred out and we can regain a sense of calm. A safety transfer means the kid gets assigned to a different school, any school that has an empty seat. And when they say safety transfer, we don't know if the kid coming to us is the perpetrator or the victim. So the troublemakers just become the next school's problem. It's a revolving door. The message we get from higher ups is that it's the teachers who are wrong. Like, what could you have done to trigger this? Or you can't relate to them. It's never, maybe this student can't be here. It's never, this behavior shouldn't be allowed. What kills me is that the majority of our kids are good kids, great kids. All they want is to come to school and not be bothered. In my school, we have under 400 students. It's maybe 8 or 10 kids tops causing all the chaos. But those kids can really do true damage. And it's the majority, the good kids, getting robbed of their sense of safety. I work with good teachers. Our hands are tied. Our administrators, they care. But when you have this cloud of violence hanging over you and your hands are tied, what can you do but feel like it's hopeless? And so, you know, you have these woke policies. They were pushing this restorative justice approach in the Melrose schools too, and positive behavioral intervention systems, PBIS. And, you know, like that stuff works with good kids, but you have school districts where you have kids that are a problem, a serious problem. But you know, they don't want to feed them into the school to prison pipeline, so they won't involve the police. And they don't want to send kids with serious mental health problems to special schools because the school district has to pay for that, and it costs a lot of money. So their preference is to have kids be in district in the least restrictive possible environment. And it really just causes an environment where nobody can learn anything because you're letting a few kids destroy the school day for everybody else. It doesn't take that many people who are crazy to ruin things for everybody. And it really then it feeds into, you know, having people who are in gangs or drug addicted or violent, like out on the streets, then once you get out of the schools. And it's like a real problem elsewhere too. Did you see the MBTA story I sent you?
I'm not sure.
So the MBTA is implementing a new program because they have a problem with people peeing in the elevators in T-stops.
Great.
Because they no longer have public bathrooms at many of the stations because they just turn into places for homeless people to live in the bathrooms. So they don't have that anymore. So now people are just peeing in the elevators. So the MBTA, it has a new program coming where they're going to have a urination sensors in the elevators that are going to detect the smell of pee in the elevator. And then when the sensor goes off, it will alert the transit ambassadors who can dispatch a cleaning crew.
I'm sure the ambassador will get right on that.
It will dispatch a cleaning crew. So it's still not allowed to pee in the elevator. They're not going to put up a camera and catch the person and punish them for public urination in the elevator in the MBTA stop. They just get to do that, but they'll just put a sensor in, and when the sensor goes off, they'll send a cleaning crew to come clean the elevator. The sensors on the ceiling of the elevator have an attached fan which allows them to suck in air and smell what is present,
Oh, God,
says Megan
Alice.
Collins, a program projects manager for the MBTA. The pilot program kicks off in August.
More like Mpta, right?
Data will be collected for several months before the agency makes a decision about whether to implement the program.
Alice.
I heard it's money. The MBTA hopes the programs alleviate the problems. Public urination is not only unsanitary, but can damage the elevators. So this is how we're living now.
Do you remember when Menino put in the automatic bathrooms in
No.
Boston? I think there were 2 or 3 that he put in because we needed public restrooms because tourists, etc., would need to go to the bathroom somewhere.
Right.
So you don't remember this? So it's a self-cleaning restroom. You don't remember that?
Mm-mm.
So it was one in front of City Hall, and one it was near the north end. So you'd go in there, you'd do your thing,
Mm-hmm.
you'd then leave, and it then would fill up, spray itself, wash itself down, whatever. Anyway, it was.
I don't remember that. I do remember for a while those things were advertised on TV all the time, and we made our mom get one that you would hang in the shower, and it would automatically spray your shower with a thing. Do you remember that?
Oh,
it was like a thing that you would hang in your shower, and it would like spray,
Oh, yeah, but
and
this
it was
was-
supposed
yeah.
to self-clean your shower for you.
oh, really? I liked it. I liked it. No, but this was a severe. Like this was law.
Like a car wash.
Yeah, it was. But anyway, so all of this is based on the ideology that we live in a terrible society that needs to be fixed. So what you've got to do is go in and destroy all the institutions, then replace them with the stuff that you like. That's the idea,
Yeah.
right? And so I was just listening to Douglas Murray. He's on a book tour, and I thought maybe I should book him, and then I realized I tried to book him, and they blew me off. So I just circled back with his publicist. But anyway, one of the things that they tried to they want to destroy, of course. And this is from Douglas Murray's book, but he says it eloquently. So you have to find the most revered and cherished people in history. So in England, that's Churchill. You have to say he's unacceptable. So if Churchill's unacceptable, the guy who saved the island, well then everybody's unacceptable.
Yeah, ironically, a lot of them go around calling him a white supremacist and a
Right.
Nazi now, which is
Oh, of course they are.
a
Yeah.
little out of
But
context.
it's the same here with Lincoln. You got to get rid of the name Lincoln, and they're doing that as well. And because if Lincoln's I believe was part of the abolitionist movement. I think he was part. I think he kept him up at night.
Well, it's just funny, too, because even a couple years ago when they were taking down the Confederate statues and Trump was saying they're going to come for Mount Rushmore, and everybody was like, no, don't be ridiculous. No slippery slopes here. And that was like part of the whole Charlottesville thing that happened and all that stuff. He said they were going to come for Mount Rushmore, and everybody was like, that's so ridiculous. And now, but yeah, everybody on Mount Rushmore is
Well, he
problematic
was
now.
obviously right because he's a guy with instincts.
And we can't, and they are renaming schools named after Washington and Jefferson and Roosevelt and everybody. Like, nobody's safe. Lincoln's not safe. I mean, like, in 5 years, probably they're going to be calling Obama a white supremacist or something.
Very possibly. Very possibly. So anyway, I just want to read something here. This is just a bit of what Douglas Murray wrote on this subject. And he went through the trans stuff, etc. So you destroy women, the idea of women. So get rid of that institution as well, which is, I guess, more than an institution. And then you can start afresh. So, these guys who were twerking all weekend during Pride Month, where we're learning from delivery companies how to have good...
We didn't play that on this podcast. I think you just did that on your show.
Oh, yeah. Okay, we can. Should we?
Yeah, we should do that.
Okay.
If people haven't heard that yet.
So we'll hit the whole Pride thing in a second.
Okay.
And yeah, okay. And actually, that's also another great example. You stick the twerking guy in front of the kids in the whole tolerance for gay people movement. Wrap it in there, so it's human shields. So you're attacking gay people now. If you have a problem with Pride, because Pride, what I've seen recently here on social media and from friends and listeners right now is that Pride means a lot of twerking in front of kids, a lot of that. But anyway, so he touches on the whole trans thing, etc. He says many of the deranging claims of our era era are far more important than men saying that they're women. It is only 3 years since the New York Times decided to publish a project which sought to reframe the founding date of America. No more 1776. Everything you were taught in school was wrong. From now on, the authors of the project claimed the founding date of America should be seen to be 1619, the date the slaves arrived in America, because then all of American history could be seen through the sole defining lens of slavery. This is a deranging claim in itself. At the time that the first slaves arrived in America, every civilization in the world practiced slavery. There was nothing unique about America. But once the claims of activist non-historians like the 1619 Project are spun through social media, they enter a new realm entirely. For history is all about context, and social media has no context because it has no history. As I point out in my new book, The War in the West, perhaps as many as 12 million Africans were trafficked across the Atlantic in the transatlantic slave trade. At the same time, as many as 18 million were sold to the east from Africa in the Arab slave trade. Why are there no descendants of slaves in the Arab lands as there are in this country? Because the Arabs castrated all of the male Africans they brought so that there would be no next generation. This does not diminish the horrors of any one slave trade, but it puts the American slave trade into context. But social media and the claims that are made on it do not encourage context any more than they encourage nuance. They are reductive models of communication that encourage not just brevity and short attention spans, but dogmatic simplicity. Take something like American history, pretend that it is only a story of evil, and spin it through the cycle of social media, and no wonder that there are times when you wonder what on earth is happening to this country. 2 years ago, there was even an attempt on social media to claim that 2 plus 2 equals 4 is a white racist concept. As a result, activist mathematicians busied themselves trying to prove that 2 plus 2 could equal 5. The results were not persuasive, but they were certainly deranging, like so much else in our day. It was an attempt to kick away at the building blocks of everything we know, to persuade us that up is down and left is right. It is going to require a hard head to get through this era. To stay sane as the virtual world swirls around us, the best way to survive will be to survive it will be to hang on to the things we know to be true, and have the confidence to stand our ground, however maddening the winds blow. But who's taught that about the Arab slave trade? Who's taught that most of the slaves who were sold out of Africa were slaves sold from people who from the towns next door, who they conquered and then impressed into slavery, and then sold to white people.
Yeah, and actually, usually kids are taught that the transatlantic slave trade was especially bad because we had slaves have kids, and then their kids would also be enslaved, which is what makes it like chattel slavery, right? So, which implies that they believe that the Arab version is a kindness, right? That not having kids of slaves is a positive. But yeah, I mean, there have obviously been slave societies all throughout the ancient world, certainly. I mean, and there are today societies that treat people as slaves. Look at China, and there will be in the future slave societies, because it's one of the things that humans do if there's no controlling influence around the ethics of forced labor. But it's something people do to each other when they can, a lot of times.
Well, right. And it would have been unusual to be against slavery. It was just one of the things that was out there. In 1650, slavery was a thing. Like anything else was a thing. And that's not great, but it is what it is. And I'm sorry about that. The Indians had slaves. People should know, okay? That was the time. The time was not great. But so this idea that, first of all, we have been having a conflict about slavery in the United States since before we were the United States. There were religious sects in this country and abolitionists since day one who did not think that this was a good thing whatsoever. There is...
And abolition was very strongly a Christian movement, certainly. And obviously, the detractors from that would say that, people who were pro-slavery also attempted to use Christianity to to justify what they were doing in some way. But I will say that I think their arguments were less persuasive in the long term, and that they had to twist and turn a bit more to try and justify themselves. I don't think that it's possible to take the Bible and the things that it says about slavery and think that the Bible is pro-slavery, because it's written in a time when people had slaves. Certainly, it doesn't. The Bible doesn't necessarily make an idol out of any political issues of the time. Put it that way. It's not about tearing down and rebuilding society necessarily, because it's about another world, another kingdom, another life, like, and living life in this world as though you're already living in another world, right? So it's not particularly concerned with the political concerns of the day. It doesn't tell you what you should be doing politically, and it was written by and for people who weren't political at all. But it's hard to read the Bible and come away with a sense that you're supposed to be enslaving other people. I think it's hard to.
All right. I'm going to move on to something else that has to do with what we were teasing right then.
Okay.
This is, I don't know if you knew that this was happening, but people are boycotting Martin's potato rolls. Did you know that?
Why?
Do you know what Martin's potato rolls are? It's in their bread aisle. They're rolls,
yeah,
etc. You would
recognize. They're a type of bread.
You would recognize the package. It's
okay.
one of the ones we don't ever get, but it's in there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Is Jimmy here yet?
No, not yet. And James is taking a shower.
Okay.
Oh, well.
Great.
Yeah, and so I'm going to take one after him, and then he's going to watch the little kids.
Excellent. Look at this teamwork. Okay. People are boycotting Martin's potato rolls for founders' ties to a far-right politician. Some food industry folks have decided to part ways with the beloved burger buns due to the maker's political ties. Martin's famous pastry shop has captivated Northeastern taste buds for generations with its just right amount of sweet and ultra-puffy potato rolls and bread. In recent years, the family business has become a nationally known brand for supplying Shake Shack with its burger buns. Recently, a controversy around Jim Martin, the company's executive chair and former president, his son Tony is now president, and his family have consumers questioning which side of the brand's bread is buttered on. Sorry, it's written like that. Sorry, I read it like that. The past week, news emerged that Martin is a backer of Doug Mastriano.
That's a Pennsylvania governor candidate?
Pennsylvania governor candidate. Was he the one who was just arrested?
No, that's Michigan.
Okay. Doug Mastriano, the Trump-endorsed Republican nominee for governor of Pennsylvania, who was subpoenaed for involvement in the 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol. According to NBC News, Mastriano, who has campaigned at events alongside... listen to this, how artfully this is written. According to NBC News, Mastriano, who has campaigned at events alongside QAnon adherents...
Mm-hmm.
He's campaigned at events alongside QAnon adherents, was on restricted Capitol grounds on January 6, just feet from rioters breaching police barricades. He has said he left before the riot. Mastriano built his brand and loyal following by doggedly seeking to overturn President Joe Biden's win in Pennsylvania. His campaign was infused with the themes of Christian nationalism, according to NBC News. And just like NBC News, Mastriano was raising money off stolen election claims, they say. Mastriano has advocated for no exceptions in an abortion ban and has introduced a bill that would bar abortions. So anyway, the bread company now, they're hunting down the bread company because
somebody at the bread company supports somebody for governor that they don't like.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go. So this is what happens. This is what the left does.
Yeah, or like the football coach guy, right?
Right. Jack Del Rio,
yeah. At the
who
Washington
wasn't
Commanders.
adamant enough in his description of January 6th, so a man came and took his money from him. Which is how that works now. He's called it a dust-up, which is not good enough. So somebody took his money from him, $100,000, which is effed up. Well,
I can tell you one thing. It's not going to engender a lot of support from sort of, I don't know if I'd call us moderate right-wing people or what I'd call us, but we certainly were very down on the whole January 6th Capitol thing. But I can tell you that if their aim is to like form a coalition of people who are united against people rioting at public buildings and storming in and taking over and knocking over police officers and pepper spraying them who are in their way, which like I'm against that, to be clear. If you're trying to form a coalition with me, then complaining about what words I use to describe the riot and fining me $100,000 is not a way to get me to see myself as an ally with you against like behaviors that I don't want to see in the public sphere. You know what I mean?
So yes, and so that the
like
the
I'm
bread,
now on the side of the rioters if I'm whatever that guy's
Right.
name is.
So the bread people have to be boycotted because he supports a candidate who may have been involved in a protest / riot, etc. Okay.
I mean, there's people around here that we know that went to the Capitol on January 6th, like didn't go into it, like just went to Trump's speech and then walked towards the Capitol and then went home and like had a normal day. But it's all being conflated by the left as like all
Okay.
some terrible thing that if
Right.
you even went there, you're evil.
So let's look at some businesses on the who are all in for Pride Week, and you tell me if they should enjoy unblemished um, marketplace capture. This is the company called Postmates.
Mm-hmm.
They deliver food, right?
Yes,
It's
like Uber Eats or something.
food
You
or-
can order food for yourself.
This is
yes.
an ad they have on the web. I'm not sure where else it is, but it's on the web here. This is called Eat with Pride.
What are you eating this Pride? Well, if you're a top, it seems like you can eat whatever you want. But if you're a bottom, you're expected to starve?
So already here, top as in gay man sex.
Yes.
The guy in the top and the guy in the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, this food delivery company is using the exact vernacular and is running some odd PSA for this.
Yeah, because it's not fair that if you do
Well-
that, if you're the bottom, that you can't eat as much because...
Not this Pride. Introducing the bottom-friendly menu from Postmates. We teamed up with Dr. Evan Goldstein from Bespoke Surgical to bring you a menu of bottom-friendly foods backed by science. Insoluble fiber won't help you feel cute, so avoid
Soluble fiber won't help you feel cute.
things like whole grains, wheat bran, cauliflower, potatoes, legumes. Hold up. Are you just fully diving into those beans? The problem with these foods is they don't dissolve in water, which could cause a traffic jam in your digestive system, making a mess of your evening. Speaking of messy, it's a good idea to avoid dairy.
Yes, you did just hear that.
handle lactose right.
You just did hear that. A traffic jam, which will make a mess. So in other words, while you're enjoying the activities that come,
With pride.
right, you want to make sure that there's not a mess because of the stuff you've eaten previously. This is
Mhm.
a
The ad, by the way, it's an eggplant in bondage gear and a peach in what looks like a diaper.
and this is a company that delivers food. That's supposedly their model. It's supposedly not consultation on gay sex.
Right now, look at her.
If you're going to eat something insoluble, give your body about 24 hours to process all of it.
Okay, so that's fine. Now, at some point in the comments, what do they say essentially? What do they say?
Somebody basically says, like, this is the allyship we need or whatever. If you're not going to tell us how to have sex, then, like, is it even really pride or something? Like, so this, apparently, this is what the woke activists want, but I can't, it's, it doesn't seem highly related to food delivery to me, the ad. I have to be honest with you.
No, and they then replied back, yeah, something along the lines of, did you see it?
Yeah, they replied back and like agreed that it was
Yeah, of course we're going
Use-
to teach you how to have sex. So that's kind of like that's what we do.
The surgeon, by the way, that they consulted specializes in like repairing damaged that
Okay.
part of the body from that. So I mean, like, it's so. I wish it were still as shocking as it should be, because it's really like the fact that companies are playing stuff like this and just like putting this out here. We've come a long way from like marriage should be between a
right.
man and a woman of Barack Obama 2008.
So this is here, and this is before we go. We'll play this one. This is Nike, and this is a Nike.
You might have played the Nike.
Did I play it?
I think you did do Nike on our show.
Okay,
I feel like.
it's this one.
What I'm doing is creating Vogue classes and creating safe spaces for
Vogue classes for children, in other words. So that is where we are here, which is, of course, completely and totally insane.
Thank you so much for listening, everybody. If you're a Patreon listener, you can head on over there, and there is a Patreon show going to be up over there. That's patreon.com/burnbarrel. You can also always find us for free at burnbarrelpodcast.com. There's links to all the different places to listen. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Rumble. You can chat with us on Twitter at burnbarrelpod, facebook.com/burnbarrelpodcast, or email us burnbarrelpodcast@gmail.com.